কামাল, 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 are you online? কামাল, are you online?
হ্যাঁ স্যার,
বলছি তোমাকে তো কোহোস্ট করেছি, তুমি নিজেকে নিজে মিউট আনমিউট করতে পারবে। আর কে কে আছে বলো তো, আমি তো কাউকে দেখছি না। ইন্দিরা আসেনি এখনো?
ইন্দ্রা তো আসার কথা ছিল।
আচ্ছা, ইন্দিরা এসেছে এতক্ষণ। আর কে আসবে?
সুজিত দার আসার কথা আছে।
আমি এগুলো সব পোস্ট করে দিচ্ছি, তোমরা নিজেরা মিউট আনমিউট করতে পারবে, ঠিক আছে? এই কে সবাইকে অ্যাডমিট অল করলো?
Share your views, because without your immense support is there.
Yes, yes.
Yes sir.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, SK Das Mandal sir, and good afternoon to all persons, all participants. And good afternoon to our Deputy Director, Sir Dr. Sudipta Chakraborty.
Thank you, sir.
And we are very much privileged that we are actually our EC department has been conducted like this program, the outcome-based education for active learning system. We know there are lots of active learning systems are there, but for whatever I will say, this will be minimum because our legend person SK Das Mandal sir is here. So whatever I will say, this will be minimum. And initially, I am telling to you, there are lots of active learning systems are there in our learning system. The brainstorming system, the online discussion, collaborative virtual classroom, the problem-solving tools, the flip classroom, and also for our academic curriculum, we should maintain the actually outcome-based education according to outcome-based education to Bloom's taxonomy. So if we maintain this thing, the Bloom taxonomy in our academic learning system, then it is good. And actually, above this, we have nothing in our hand, and nothing we can say, nothing question will be arise if we maintain this kind of thing. So I shall not spend much more time because I have to learn something and many things for active learning teaching system from SK Das Mandal sir. That's why I'm in also here. And thank you all. Thank you all EC department, our electronics and communication department. Thanks to all members and to all participants, and special thanks to SK Das Mandal sir for being here. Thank you. I'm over to Indira Ghosdasti.
Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, sir.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now we will quickly move to our today's main session. We are thankful to have Professor SK Das Mandal sir from IIT Kharagpur as our invited speaker. Hope you all have a good time with him and we all be benefited. Sir, I would like to request you to take over the charge. The mic is all yours. In case of any technical difficulties, our team is here with you.
Okay,
sir, over to you.
First of all, I want to check whether I am audible to all of you or not.
Yes, sir. You are completely audible. Yes, sir.
Okay. So next. So again, we will connect. Be patient because sometime internet may got disconnected. Again, we have to start the session again because internet is not that much of good set. Second one is that whatever the questions you have, you keep it in your mind or you can write down in your pad, and at the end of the lectures you can you can ask those questions via chat or audio. Both are possible. So let's first go through the lecture first and then we take the questions. Okay, because it is two-way communication is not possible because of the bandwidth issue and other things. So first you just listen what I'm saying, and after that you raise your questions. Okay, so let's start. So I'll start that one thing that what is the challenge in today's education systems, what kind of challenge we are facing as a teachers when we go to the classroom. So the first challenge is how to improve the student engagement. If you see, most of the students are either not willing to come in the class, or they are not study during the whole semester. What they said, okay sir, during the exam I will study for 7 days and I'll give the exam and I will pass the exam. So instead of, you can say that whole 4 year time is there, but actual study period may be 1 or 2 months. Means if we compare the all semesters together, then 7 days before the exam, maybe 3-4 months they have actually studied. It is applicable for all kinds of discipline, not only for engineering education, it is applicable for general education also. So most of the colleges, most of the university, throughout the year, nothing study is there. People are coming in the class or not coming in the class. And before the exam, they search for the note and they just remember the note and give the exam and everything is forward. So main problem in education system is that student engagement. As a teacher, how you engage the student throughout the semester. Most of the cases, if you ask the students, so why you not go to the class, then the students say, well, give me the 2 reasons why should I go to the class, because teacher again is delivering some information and that information is already available in the Google, or that information is already available in the book, so why should I go to the class? So a lot of issue is there regarding student engagement. Student says that I am not studying at the home because I do not know what teacher will cover in the next class. And once the student enters the class and attend the class, he realizes the teacher, whatever the information teacher is delivering, that can be learned during the examination only. This time is not required. So throughout the year, student engagement becomes very low. So as a teacher, as a present generation teacher, 21st century teacher, how should I engage the students throughout the semester? That is my first challenge. Next is how to equip students with 21st century knowledge, skill and attitude. Today, not only as a teacher, you have to deliver information. If I ask the students define Schrodinger equation, that is not education. We have to know what the students can do with the Schrodinger equation. Only knowing definition of Newton's second law of motion not sufficient. You have to know what they can do using Newton's second law of motion. So all kinds of questions. How do, as a teacher, how do I develop the skill set among the students? If you, since most of the participants may be from Bengali background, or most of you know that Tagore. If you remember long back, that I will show you one slide. See the slide. The philosophy of the slide is taken by Tagore in long back. Long back, Tagore said that Shikha ke amra bohon koriya cholilam bahon korite parilam na. Means as a, we are carrying education. Means lot of information, lot of theory, lot of the things. Student has to remember this thing, that thing. Lot of book, lot of notes, and everything we remember. So we are carrying the education. But education is not carrying us, because we are not solving societal problems using education. If I am not able to solve that, then why should I educate? So how do we develop the skill, cognitive skill among the students instead of delivering information? Information is available today to everybody. Everything available in the Google. If you search in the anything you do not want to, even today in lockdown scenario, cooking. Many people are doing cooking just watching YouTube. But that is information. But cooking is not done by YouTube. Cooking has to be done by that person. He has to digest that and develop that skill. So as a teacher, what should I do in the class so that it is not only the information, it should be the skill and attitude of the student. Positive attitude of the students. As a teacher, my role is not just go to the class and derive a second order differential equation from one corner to blackboard to the next corner. It is not necessary. Necessary is that how that become a skill to the students. How you develop that skill on the students. That is requirement. So whatever Tagore says that's why you can remember that Tagore started Vishwavarati on that background. He wants that the students should develop their skill set. So he knows better in the cultural side. That's why he started cultural education there. But it is skill development, not just okay. You read the theory, you read the write the derivation, and you got the number, you pass the exam, you got a degree. Not that. So how do you develop the skill and attitude of the students in a class? Next one is curriculum. Most of the time we have seen the curriculum, 4-year curriculum either is not available, or if it is available, which is not updated long time, or it is outdated. Most of the time what we'll do, 3 or 4 people sit together and derive a curriculum. One may come from the industry and 3 experts will come, and every expert says that every topic is important. Suppose I am the expert for microwave side, I thought all the microwave topic is important, so I included in the syllabus. But we never thought what is the requirement of the current industry. What is required for by the industry? What kind of skill set is required by the employer? So how do I continuously improve the curricula? It is not that I will prepare a syllabus for 5 years and next 5 years it will be revised and it will be going on. It is not that. It has to be continuously revised to produce industry-ready engineer. The term called industry-ready engineer. Why IBM, TCS, CTS will employ your engineer? What kind of skill they are required? Have you even thought it? So what kind of skill will develop on the students based on that? What kind of manpower requirement is there? Because most of the time we said education is nothing but to produce a skill labor. It is not that you got a degree, not that degree certificate is alone. Why the society will accept that you are a BTech electronics engineer? What are the extra skill you have acquired which does not have by the common man, so that society said yes, you are an electrical engineer, you are an electronics engineer. So how do I continuously improve the curricula so that my curricula is aligned with modern industry requirement? It is not the revise of curricula. How to ensure examination system reinforce teaching and learning? If I ask you that why we take that exam, most of the teacher will say it is for that only provide marks to the students. What happened? You just provide a marks. A student got 0 marks. What happened? He failed. What do you mean by fail? What do you mean by pass? So the examination is not to certify that student's competence only. Examination is also reinforcement of the teaching learning. As a teacher, what kind of feedback you have taken? What you learn from the examination as a teacher, that also very important. How to ensure lifelong learning? Most of the cases, lifelong learning skill has to be developed among the students. Self-learning ability among the students. So what should I do in the class so that students develop their self-learning ability? It is not that everything will be spoon-fed to the students and students will just memorize that and give the exam. And after the exam, everything is perfect. Because that is not skill and that is not developed by themselves. So as a teacher,
Sir, Professor S.K. Das, sir, are you there? I think we have lost connection with him. We are trying our level best to reach him out. Please bear with us.
Allow my sharing. Sharing is okay now. Okay. Sorry. Sorry for the interruption because this will happen. Internet connection has some problem. Okay. So we are discussing about that large classroom. So how do we teach a large classroom? So what is the problem you are facing as a teacher in a large classroom? Generally, the problem is that if you teach for the first bench, most of the time Second bench said it is very difficult, and last bench said it is very difficult, so they do not participate. If you teach for the middle bench, then first bench say it is easy, and last bench say still it is difficult. Now, if you teach for the last bench, then the middle bench and first bench say, oh, it is useless subject. So in a large classroom, how do you teach? Most of the time, many people said the best teacher-student ratio is 1:20. Why? Why 1:20 is the best teacher-student ratio? What is the basis for saying that 1:20 is the best teacher-student ratio? If I say the best teaching happens when, what should be the teacher-student ratio for best teaching? It is 1:1. Why? Why the best teaching can happen if the teacher-student ratio is 1:1? Because as per learning theory, it is said that every student has its own learning style and learning approaches. Every student has its own learning style and learning approaches, and which is also a function of topic, time, mood of the students, the complexity of the topic. So all other factors also affect that what kind of learning and learning approaches prepared by the student. So why the best teaching happen when it is 1:1? It is said that, theory says that best teaching happen when your delivery, your information or your instruction is coincide or match with student learning style, learning approaches. That is called personalized learning. So personalized learning means that whatever you as a learner want to learn, that is matches with teacher delivery. So since the teacher-student ratio is 1:1, so every time teacher will assess the students and modify his information delivery as per the student need. So that's why 1:1 is called personalized learning and best teaching happens. Now, how do I create this scenario virtually in the large classroom? So the challenge of education methodology or education technology is to create virtual environment in a classroom where it may be 100, it may be 200 to 1:1 teaching. Can I create that in a classroom 1:1 condition using technology, using teaching methodology, whatever? So that is called effective teaching. So ultimately, as a teacher, I will be effective if I am able to engage the students in the class, if I am able to develop the skill on the students, if my content or my curricula is continuously improved as per the industry requirement, if my examination or my assessment is for only enhancing the learning capability of the learner, if I encourage students to learn by themselves, if I create a virtual scenario in a large classroom which is 1:1 or personalized learning, can I do that in a classroom scenario? So what kind of education technology I should take support? What kind of teaching learning methodology I should use so that these questions are addressed? So ultimately, as a teacher, I have to find out the solution of these questions. So if you learn, if you go through this my lectures or during 3 days, I'll try to solve all the questions which I raise in this slide. So as a teacher, this is your challenges, that can I do that? Next one is accreditation. Some part of accreditation you have to know, because that is also required for quality teaching. So accreditation, you heard about NBA, Washington Records, ABET, all kinds of accreditation is required. But who required accreditation? First question will ask. Accreditation doesn't required by the government authority, or accreditation does not required by the administrative authority. Accreditation is required by the students only. So what is the genesis of accreditation? Accreditation is a process. You write a document, submit to somebody, and they said your program is accredited. It is not that. How do you implement accreditation in the classroom is an important issue. Accreditation document doesn't serve the purpose for improving the quality of education. You have to implement accreditation in the classroom requirement, classroom environment. And the requirement of the accreditation is by the students, not by the accreditation authority. So what is the genesis of accreditation? It is required for everything. Suppose you go to the market to buy a mobile phone. How do I find out, or how do I measure the quality of the mobile phone? So the quality of the mobile phone can be measured using two methods. Method one is called subjective measurement. Method two is called objective measurement. What is subjective measurement? I can say that many people, or when you buy the mobile, just seeing the review of the product, many people says that this mobile is good, that's why you want to buy this mobile. So that is called subjective measurement. Many people say that yes, this kind of mobile phone is very good, so I want to buy that. That is, I am buying this mobile phone and I am saying this mobile is good based on the people suggestion or subjective opinion. Next one is that I can measure objective measurement. What is the screen size? What is the resolution of the screen? What is the camera resolution? How many cameras are there? What is the audio quality of the phone? What kind of, how much memory is there? So all are the parameters for measuring the quality of the phone. So when I say objective measurement, then I require certain parameter to measure the quality. Think about, same thing is applied for your education system. Institute A offer a program B, and that program is good, recognized by many people. That's why that program is good. Example, IIT BTech Computer Science, IIT BTech Electronics is very good. Why? It is established by the previous graduate, or it is established by the alumni that IIT is a brand name, that's why it is good. So it is not objective measurement, it is subjective measurement. Now when you want to find out the objective measurement, then the parameter is required. Subjective measurement is called branding. But how do I brand it? How do I improve the quality of the program? So people say, can I measure the quality of an educational program objectively? Or on the other hand, I can say that suppose the requirement is that country A produce a program or run a program B and produce graduate engineer, let's graduate engineer. Why country C will accept those graduate engineers? So there is something called quality requirement, that yes, I will declare that I will accept you are a graduate engineer if you have certain quality. So the accreditation is come from that angle. So all the industry people sit together and decide that after 10+2, 4-year or more than 4-year degree program must have following skill among the students. So if you see the Washington records define only 12 dimensions to measure the quality of the program objectively. So accreditation is come from only measure the quality of the educational program. That's why the accreditation is given to the program, not given to the institute. Because program is producing, let's graduate engineer. So those are the product. And they said, if a person called I am a graduate engineer or I am a BTech engineer, which in India is called undergraduate engineer, if those skills are exist on that students, then only they will certify as a graduate engineer. So what are those skills? So if you see, this is the Washington record, which is defined first, and NBA is taken as it is what is in Washington record. So what is defined, which is called graduate attribute or graduate profile. First attribute say that, forget about the heading, think about the green part only, just see the green part of the slide. So students will able to solve complex engineering problem. Solve complex engineering problem. It is not they will know Schrodinger equation, they will describe AC machine, they will describe analog electronics, not that. It is said they should able to solve complex engineering problem based on the whatever the knowledge they have acquired for the mathematics, science, engineering fundamental. From there, they should able to the what is cognitive skill, solving ability of the student. A graduate engineer must say that he is able to solve engineering problem. There is a two term. One is called solve, next term is called complex. So what they said, that there will be a numerous institute. Institute A, Institute B, Institute C, Institute D. Institute A offer a program, Institute B offer a program, Institute C offer a program. Are the all program will same? Suppose Institute A offer a computer science program, Institute B offer a computer science program, Institute C also offer a computer science program. Is all computer science program will be same? No. They said that Institute A offer a computer science program and they can say that our graduate will do high-end research. Institute B offer a computer science program, they can say our graduate will employ it in the local industry or software development industry. So the complexity of the solving ability will be different. Institute A computer science program complexity must be much higher than the Institute B computer science program, because Institute A said that we are offering this program to produce high-end researcher. So that's why there is two terms. One is called solve complex engineering problem. Minimum capability, cognitive capability, solving ability. I cannot say I am producing a graduate engineer, oh, I am a very much private engineering college and we are not that good, so our students only know describe AC machine. Then I cannot say we are offering a graduate course or undergraduate BTech course. Their minimum ability is solving ability, but complexity of the problem will be different. Institute institute B can say we have taught to the student solve second order differential equation. But institute A said no, we taught to the students nth order differential equation. So the complexity will change. Second attribute, analyzing ability. Analyze complex engineering problem. Again, complex means institute to institute it will vary. But cognitive ability is analyzing ability. Second one, design and development of solution. They should able to design or develop design a system, component or process. An engineer must able to design either whole system or a part of a system or a process. A electronics engineer said that, sir, I do not know how to design that analog amplifier, the basic push-pull analog amplifier. I only know how push-pull amplifier is work. If you taught only how push-pull amplifier is work, then actually you are not teaching for the BTech course. You are teaching for the ITI or diploma course. Basic requirement is that BTech engineer after 10 plus to any degree, 4-year degree program, when I say, they should able to design a complete system or a part of a system or a process on a complex engineering problem. Again, the complexity will vary. My students can design a very simple amplifier, but Institute A can say, no, my student will design a very good complex amplifier. That depends on what kind of graduate you are producing. But the minimum skill is design ability. Second is investigation. Conduct investigation. The experiment, what we are teach to the students. What is required is that the student must able to design experiment, analyze data, collect data, interpret data, all those skills are required. What we are doing? Do not touch the instrument. Take the reading and write down the lab report. This is not required. They have to design the experiment. They have to collect the data. They have to analyze the data. They have to draw a valid conclusion based on the collected data. So those skills are very much important. It is not that, okay, you take a reading, when you draw the curve is coming on different side. So you take the last year lab report. BTech engineer. They have to design their experiment, what they want to experiment. They have to analyze the data. They have to collect the data. They have to interpret the data. All those things are required. Next one is called modern tool uses. Today, a civil engineer says, sir, I do not know CAD software. Are you accept he is a civil engineer? So every discipline, there is a certain tool set today is required. So every engineer must know modern tools which are available on their discipline and how to use those tools to synthesize a problem. So an electronics engineer said that, sir, I do not know how to write a MATLAB code, but I have studied the signal processing subject. Have you accepted that person has studied signal processing subject unless they do not know how to code in a MATLAB? So modern tool uses is an important issue. By what is required? Ability, simulating ability. They should able to simulate complex engineering problem using modern tools on their respective field. And they also know what is the limitation of the tools. So 1 to 5. First, cognitive ability is solving ability. Second one is analyzing ability. Third one is design ability. Fourth one is investigation ability. Fifth one is modern tools uses ability. So those the ability which are depend on the domain. If it is electronics, they have a design ability on electronic side. If it is mechanical, they have a use modern tools on mechanical tools. So a civil engineer is not able to use the MATLAB software for write a fire filter. That is not expected. So 1 to 5, this dimension is called domain specific dimension or domain dependent skill. Sometimes those 5s are called PSO, program specific outcome. These are called PO. Program outcome is nothing but a attribute to measure the quality of the program. So 1 to 5 are called domain dependent. Then individual teamwork. So engineer not only know the domain dependent skill, but also domain independent skill, like individual and teamwork, communication skill, engineering and society, ethics, lot of there. So individual and teamwork, communication skill, engineer must have to communicate. So we do not require that every BTech engineer is pronounced like a British English, not that. An engineer must be able to communicate effectively to his fellow worker, to the society, to the client, to his boss. So we require technical communication. You will able to write effective report, technical report writing. We do not require like a Shakespeare. They will not write a poem or poetry. There only I require communication skill, which is communicate effectively on a technical issues. They should able to write an effective technical report. So those are the requirements. Not that English or like a British English or you have to pronounce like that way, not that. Then engineering and society. Next one is ethics. This ethics doesn't mean that ethics is human, all kinds of ethics. Look, okay, what is fundamental of human rights? All kinds of, not that. Ethics means engineering ethics. The engineer must tell the truth. Most of the cases, engineering ethics is zero. All the people are copied the lab report. So engineering ethics we have never developed. If I have not solved the problem, I should have a courage to tell the teacher that yes sir, I am not able to solve it because of this limitation. So that ethics we have to develop. Most of the teachers said, if I give an assignment in the class, which is necessary for lifelong learning, but most of the people will copy each other. So that means as a teacher, I am failed to develop the engineering ethics among the students. Then environment and sustainability, project management and finance, then lifelong learning. So if I say 1 to 5 is called domain dependent attribute for measuring the quality of the program, and 6 to 12, 7 are called domain independent skill, which is required by a undergraduate or graduate engineer. Those 12 are called PO. Program outcome is nothing but a 12-dimensional attribute to measure the quality of the program. Is clear? Now, if you see that, let's say then what we'll do to how to develop those skill set among the students. How I implement this parameter or how do I develop this kind of skill among the students. So if I able to develop this 12 skill among the students, that means my program is accredited. So what should I do to implement those attributes in my classroom? It is not that whether you are accredited, whether you are not, who is recognized the accredited, that doesn't matter unless you able to implement it in the classroom. So how do I implement it in the classroom? Next challenge is, should I offer for every attribute one course? Should I offer a course on ethics? Should I offer a course on communication? Should I offer a course on teamwork? It is not true. It is said that while you are developing domain dependent skill, that is solving ability, design ability, testing ability, modern tools uses ability, analyzing ability, which are domain dependent, can you develop the domain independent skill also? That means it required is that if I teach a course on AC machine, can I say while I am teaching AC machine design, I am developing their ethics, I am developing their self-learning ability, I am developing their communication skill, I am developing their teamwork? Yes, you have to do that. So as a teacher, 21st century teacher, it not only you have to develop the how the AC machine is designed, but also you have to develop their self-learning ability, ethics, communication skill, teamwork, environment and sustainability, along with the AC machine design. So this is a challenge to the modern day teachers. So what should I do? So in a teaching, there is two parts. One is called information, which you will deliver. Second part is called teaching learning process. How you deliver your information, which is called pedagogy of teaching. So there is the information. Yes, this kind of design I have to talk to the students, or I can say learner centric. This kind of designing ability has to be developed on the students. While I am developing that design ability, can I say I am also developing their lifelong learning, their communication skill, ethics, then their teamwork, all kinds of non-domain dependent PO also. That is the challenge. Next question many people ask, is that accreditation means my program is better program than the other? No. Accreditation doesn't guarantee, it is not the quality of the program. It is said that minimum quality required for the program. So it is a benchmark. This is the minimum quality required for a BTech program. That BTech program must be accepted by the other country. Yes, that maintain the minimum quality required. So accreditation never guaranteed the quality of the program, but it is ensure the minimum quality required for that program. Okay? Next. NBA is same as Vasundhara course. I am not explaining same thing twice. So how we implement it? Accreditation can be implemented in the one way, which is called outcome-based learning. The implementation of the accreditation can be done using the principle called outcome-based learning. So how do I implement accreditation in the classroom? Using outcome-based learning. What is outcome-based learning? Many of you know, you have heard about the word outcome-based learning. What is outcome-based learning? Outcome-based learning is nothing but a philosophy that all of must be have read this book. I think so. Many of you have read this book, The Alice in the Wonderland. If you see the philosophy of the picture is that a girl standing on a junction of path, and he asks to the cat that which path she should take. Cat replied, where you want to go? Girl said, I do not know. Then cat said, take any path, doesn't matter. That means unless you define your goal, how do you say that you have reached the goal? So defining the goal is essential for a measuring outcome. Just a minute. Hello. Hello. Okay, I'll call you later. Sir, abhi to pore kori. 5 minute pore korchi. Na dekhe nebu. Okay. So this is outcome based learning. So outcome must be visible. Outcome must be measurable. Then only as a learner I should say whether I have reached the goal or not. So outcome-based learning, the job of the teacher is not teach the student. Job of the teacher is to define the goal based on the student's requirement. What is the student requirement? Requirement by the program. So if I want to produce an undergraduate engineer, the goal will be defined as per the requirement by the Washington Accord or NBA guideline. I cannot teach a student, the students will only goal is he will be able to describe AC machine. That is not my goal. My goal is they should be able to design AC machine. So as a teacher, my role is that define the goal. Once you define the goal, then you can mentor and guide the students to reach the goal. So role of the teacher is to guide and mentor the students, not to deliver information in the class, which we are do most of the time. We deliver the information. Whether the students are learn or not, we doesn't care. We do not care. We said, okay, those are the questions you have practices in come in the exam. They will just memorize those questions, write the exam, and after the exam, everything they forgot. That is not the requirement. Requirement is that you are able to design this kind of AC machine. As a teacher, I am here to guide and mentor you so that you can learn or you can acquire the skill how to design an AC machine. Then only the learning is completed. So outcome-based education says the role of the teacher is to define the goal and guide and mentor the student to reach the goal. So in outcome-based education, it is said that learning is learner responsibility, not teacher responsibility. Learning is learner responsibility, not teacher responsibility. If a learner do not want to learn, there is no teacher can teach it. So job of the teacher to define the goal, provide the adequate guide and mentoring to the students to reach the goal. That's why it is called learner-centric approach. The goal has to achieve by the learner. If you remember our ancient definition of guru, which is exactly matched in outcome-based education. If you remember, none of our guru says that I will take you to the God. Every guru says that I'll show you the path to reach the God. Here also, teacher said, this is your goal. I'll show you the path to reach the goal, but goal has to achieve by the learner. That's why it is called learner-centric approach. Okay, so this is outcome-based learning. So how do you write down the target? This outcome, I'm not covering this. This is not that much of required. How do you write down the target is an also art. As a teacher, how you specify the target? There is a theory. The target has to be specified based on ISD principle called Instructional System Design Principle. Using ISD principle, you can define the target. So the purpose of this lecture is that how to define your subject target and how it can be used in the classroom so that you can ensure the accreditation is implemented in the classroom. More or less, I will first cover the structure of a program, how this program is look like, how department is look like. Then I will cover how this can be used for implement, how the accreditation can be implemented in the classroom. What is outcome-based learning? So, what is there in an academic institute? Every academic institute, or think about a department. Suppose you have a department called computer science department or electronics department. So every department must have a mission and vision. And under the department, there is a several program, maybe BTech in electronics, MTech in microwave, MTech in several. So those are called program. So a department or institute must have mission and vision. What is vision? Vision, that what institute want to be. And what is mission? How your vision will be fulfilled. So what is the mission? So what is vision? Every institute, if you see the most of the NBA document, every institute write down will create a good human person. They will have an honesty. They will have an excellent researching capability. Everybody is written down. Then actually you are diluting your mission and vision statement. You have to write down your mission and vision statement based on your capability. So when you write down your mission and vision statement of a department, you have to think what you want to be. So vision, futuristic statement that institute department would like to achieve over a long period of time. If I say I am producing a research engineer and none of my students or maybe 1% of student goes to higher study, then can I say I am producing a research engineer? So it is not necessary that every institute has to produce research engineer, oil, human being. Maybe my institute is created to supply manpower for local industry. So I can say create industry-ready graduate engineer for the present need of software industry. So this is my computer science program vision. So my department is created only to supply manpower for local industry. Yes, there may be some student who will take care about the research. That is my spike, but that is not my base product. My base product is that I will create engineer for modern industry, modern software industry. So vision statement, for that requirement, I offer a well-balanced curricula, instruction and practical experience to produce skilled graduate with leadership and managerial quality for the modern software industry. Right? You have to think, write big words only. You have to write what you want to do. Next, program educational outcome. Program educational outcome or objective of the department or of a program or a particular program. So suppose I have a program called electronics and telecommunication engineering, suppose, or computer science engineering. So at the end of the 4-year program, what kind of skill I want to see on the graduate engineer? Can I explain those skill sets in a few lines? So guideline for PEO should be consistent with the mission and vision, and number of PEO should be manageable. I cannot say they will able to, they are a good communicator, they are able to participate in a debate. Not that required. I have to write down what are the broad skills my program will develop among the graduating students. So before you writing down the broad skill, what is required, you have to fix what kind of product you want to produce. So you have to collect the data, then only decide what should be your PO. So you have to collect the data from professional body, industry, alumni, management, data on training development in the profession. Professional body. So professional body identify what kind of skill is required for a modern engineer. Industry will say, we will employ them if they have those skills. Alumni said, our school, our institute is not have this capability. Please look after that. So you have to get the alumni feedback. Management has to decide based on the feedback what they will able to deliver. Industry said, oh, we require an engineer who have a very good research capability. Management said, no, we cannot produce research engineer because our basic requirement or our resources are not scattered to that level. So based on the feedback, you have to write down your PO. I'll show you one PO. So before I writing down my PO, I written down the consideration. I said this is the consideration that I said most of my students are employed in the software development industry, which are working in the area of application software development, artificial intelligence, data analytics, and computer network. So I am saying that suppose I have 100 students, 80% of my students are working either in a software development company or in an artificial intelligence company or data analytics or in a network company. So if that is the scenario, then only I can write down this PO. So this is the procedure to write down the PO. Now if you see, your PO must be aligned with your mission statement. So if I say this is my mission statement, offer a well-balanced curricula, and if you so from the mission statement, I write down the key component of the mission statement, and I just map with them which PO is mapped with which mission statement. This is my PO, and this is the statement. This is clear? So there is a consistency between PO and mission, and how to write down the mission vision and how to write down the PO. Next one is program outcome. Program outcome is nothing but a 12 attribute which is defined by a Washington Accords or NBA guideline. When you take it for that electronics engineering, then first 5 is for electronics, which is called program specific outcome. Along with that first 5, you have to add 1 or 2 program specific outcome. That means that suppose I am offering a course on electronics and Institute B also offering a course on electronics. Institute A electronics course are strong in microwave engineering. Institute B electronics course is strong in VLSI design. So at a PSO level, I should indicate that my program is very much emphasize the microwave engineering. Another institute will write down, my program is very much emphasized on VLSI engineering, so that industry will know if I want a microwave engineering graduate, I should go this industry. If I want a VLSI design engineer, I should go this institute. So those is called PSO, program specific outcome. 1 to 5 is also PSO. You have to write down 1 or 2 criteria which is specific to or which is the nomenclature of your program. I can say my staffs are very good in microwave, so my graduate engineers are very good skill on microwave engineering. What are the skill? You have to write down. That is called PSO. Then I have a course outcome. So course outcome are nothing but this is the important issue. From here we have to start our work as a teacher and as an individual. You have to start from here. Course outcome. So program outcome are fulfilled by course outcome. What is course outcome? Course outcome is nothing but a target as a teacher you define for your course. That is so up to this program outcome, program educational outcome, mission vision, all are institute level. But when it comes to the course outcome, it is the teacher's level. Every teacher has to develop their course outcome of their own course. What is course outcome? Course outcome nothing but a target which student has to achieve at the end of the course. So end of the course, they should able to do these things are the course outcome. Those are called the major takeaway by the students. Example, suppose a course, let's an example given to understand by everybody. Suppose you have opened a school called motor training school. You have a motor training school and you offer a 3-month training program. So course outcome is nothing but a 3-month course or 4-month course or 5-month course. So suppose I have a motor training school, we offer a 3-month training program. What is your outcome of the program? If I write down, okay, at the end of the 3 months, you will learn how the automatic gear work, how the gear has to be set, what is power steering, what is normal steering, what is brake, what is clutch, what is accelerator, how to operate clutch, how to operate accelerator, all kinds of things. And another school write down, at the end of the training program, will able to drive the car or drive a 4-wheeler or light motor vehicle on this kind of road. Which one is more specific? Second one. So course outcome are those which is the major takeaway by the students. Major takeaway. While you are driving a car, you have to know what is clutch, how it is work. That is very much essential, but that is not sufficient. So when I say that Maxwell equation, definition of the Maxwell equation is essential, but that is not sufficient. So what is the major takeaway of the course is called course outcome. How to write the course outcome? Again, it is called Instructional System Design Principle, ISD principle, Instructional System Design Principle. There is a 2 terminology. One is called course objective, another one is called course outcome. Many people have a confusion on what is course objective and what is course outcome. Sometimes the outcome is called also instructional objective, is called also outcome. So in my opinion, course objective, many people say it is the teacher intention to teach. So this course will cover this topic is course objective. What students will able to do at the end of the course. So when you write down a statement using ISD principle or instructional system objective are called outcome of the course. A course outcome must be specific, measurable and achievable that students should able to do after receiving the instruction effect. So that means at the end of the course, what student will able to do? It is not that, okay, at the end of the course, they will able to describe AC machine. They will ascertain on AC machine working. They should able to describe the working principle of AC machine. Those are essential, but those are not sufficient for a course outcome. Because your course outcome must cater to solving ability, analyzing ability, design ability, testing ability, and synthesis ability. It is not describe, define. Whatever is your course. Is clear? And when you write down the outcome, outcome is not a single line statement. Outcome is not a single line statement. It may be a paragraph, but it should be specific, measurable and achievable. A outcome has 3 components: performance component, condition component and criteria component. Performance component means what student able to do, and the condition component means what will be given to them, and criteria component is up to what level they have to perform. Is clear? So today I will stop here and I will take the questions so that it is not so long, so that you will be not able to digest everything. So please, one by one, unmute your mic and ask questions. I have seen there is 9 or 10 raised hand. So please now ask the questions.
Kalpana, if you have any kind of questions, you can ask.
Yes.
Kalpana madam, are you there? Kalpana madam, are you there? Hello, Kalpana madam. Kalpana Sagar, are you there?
Next one, whoever is raised the hand, can you ask your question?
दया मेरा नाम लैपटॉप खोलती कब तो मेरा सब छोड़ी
You can either write in the chat box or can ask in audio also. If you can also write in the chat box also.
Sanjukta Shao, I unmute you. You can unmute yourself and you can ask the questions. Sanjukta Shao. Next, Aparna. Aparna madam, if you have any kind of questions, you can ask. Gayatri ma'am, if you have any kind of questions, you can ask.
Okay, sir.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, sir. I would like to know that when a large number of students in the class, that times difficulty for the mic when I'm not having any mic. So some methodology or
Yes,
some
yes.
teaching class.
I'll cover it. I said that after the whole presentation will cover, you will able to understand. I will answer all the questions which I have raised in the first slide. How to
Okay,
teach the
sir.
classroom, how to. So yeah.
Okay, thank you, sir. But your lecture is very nice, sir.
Thank you.
The
Thank you.
methodology of
Thank you,
teaching
ma'am.
and learning is very nice. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. Dr. Sanjay Jain. Dr. Kumud. Dr. Kumud, are you there? Dr. Kumud, are you there? Dr. Sanjay Jain, are you there?
Hello.
Yes.
Yeah, ma'am.
Yeah, I'm Kumud. Fine, sir. It's okay.
It's
Yeah.
okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So what we'll do is tomorrow at 4 o'clock we'll start and we'll maybe up to 4:30, 5:30 or maybe 5:45. So be patient because tomorrow I'll cover all those things and then you get that your because today I just only raised that your curiosity. Tomorrow I'll give that answer. Okay.
Okay. Okay, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you,
Your
sir.
valuable lecture. It's an amazing lecture. You can say, it is a, we are grateful to you, like persons like you. And everyone in this group now is more than 200 participation is there, and everyone is enjoy your sessions, enjoy a lot, I think. And thanks a lot, sir. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. So
Thank you, sir.
Tomorrow
Thank you, sir.
will
Your
be
session
wait
is
for
always
you.
good, sir.
Huh?
Tomorrow will be wait for you, sir.
Okay, thank you.
It's a very informative. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.